Hello, I'm Suk Kim. Today, I want to share a unique perspective on a well-known biblical narrative, the story of Hannah from the first book of Samuel. The ideas I'm sharing today are based on my research, published in 2008 in the journal The Bible and Critical Theory, titled The Story of Hannah, 1 Samuel 1:1 through 2:11, from a perspective of Han, the three-phase transformative process. In biblical scholarship, we often read Hannah's story through spiritual, feminist, or liberation lenses. While these are valuable, they can sometimes fall into the trap of identity politics, a rigid us versus them mentality that can inadvertently exclude others. In my work, I propose an intercultural reading. By using the Korean concept of Han, H-A-N, we can see Hannah's experience not just as a personal struggle for a child, but a three-phase process of holistic transformation that involves the self, the community, and society at large. To understand Hannah, we must understand Han, H-A-N. It is term meaning bitterness, a wounded heart, a condensed experience of oppression that forms a lump in one's spirit. While many theologians seek the end of Han, I see it as a potential source for transformation. Hannah was a marginal person, marginalized by her infertility and the social stigma of her time. But marginality isn't just a place of weakness. As we move from being in between cultures or identities to being in beyond, we find the power to engage the world differently. Hannah's journey is the perfect model for this kind of transformation. So here is the first phase of this transformation. That is the moment of I'm nothing. I'm nothing. This is the lowest point of Han. Hannah is provoked by her rival Peninnah and neglected by the patriarchal structures of her time. Her husband Elkanah, though naively good, fails to understand her pain. Even the high priest Eli misreads her silent prayer as drunkenness. In the Hebrew text, Hannah describes herself as Keshat Ruach, a woman whose spirit is hard or who struggles to breathe. She's in a state of nothingness. Yet she does not seek revenge. Instead, she takes this deep bitterness and pours her soul out before the Lord. She's searching for meaning in the midst of nothingness or Sheol. Now we move to the second phase. I'm something. I'm someone. This is a moment of awakening. It doesn't happen overnight, but through a long process of prayerful struggle or prayerful discernment. Hannah moved from the lament of nothingness to a realization of her own dignity before the Lord. So she recovered her sense of self, her autonomy. But this autonomy is different from the Enlightenment autonomy. Here the autonomy is what I call heteronomous autonomy. Heteronomous autonomy, which means autonomy informed by God. We find our own voice while remaining held by the rule of God. That's what heteronomous autonomy means here for Hannah. As we see in her song in 1 Samuel chapter 2, she begins to breathe smoothly again. Her somethingness is born from the realization that Her identity is not defined by her critics or her social status or by anyone, but by her relationship with the Spirit. Finally, Hannah reaches the third phase of transformation, which is I'm anything. I'm one for others. This is the phase of deep commitment and political action. Note the word deep commitment and political action. When Hannah vows to give her son Samuel back to the service of God, she's looking far beyond her own needs. This is really something I want to emphasize. Hannah is looking far beyond her own needs. She recognizes the crisis of leadership in her society, the dull senses of Eli and the corruption of the temple. By dedicating her son to the community, she's acting to reform a dysfunctional system. She has moved into an in beyond identity, in beyond identity. She goes beyond her own identity and struggle, but she stays in the community to reform their society. So she's no longer just a woman with a child. She's a woman whose personal transformation has become a catalyst for public societal change. As we come to the conclusion of our reflection, look at this title of the final slide, the Triptych of Transformation. We look at this final visual summary, a complete map of Hannah's transformative journey. What's vital to understand here is that the three phases we discussed, I'm nothing, I'm something, I'm anything, are not a linear checklist. Let me emphasize again, they are not a linear checklist. They are not one-time events where you reach the end and never look back. Instead, they represent a triptych of recurring moments. Throughout our lives, we continuously cycle through these spaces of hardship, awakening, and public service. In the slide on the left, we anchor ourselves back in phase one, I'm nothing. This is the lowest point of harm where we find ourselves trapped in the close margins of life, experiencing hardship, systemic marginalization, like a Hannah crying out in bitterness or being misread by the institutions around us. We all experience moments where our spirits feel hard and it feels difficult to breathe for many different reasons. But this foundational nothingness is like a ontological humility. But we are not defeated by nothingness. It is not a dead end. It is the raw soil from which transformation can begin. On the right side of the slide on the right, we see the phase two, I'm something. This is the moment of a personal awakening and blooming healing. Through prayerful struggle or discernment, Hannah realized her ultimate destiny before the divine, independent of her social status or her critics. This is where we claim our autonomy or our heteronomous autonomy. Autonomy informed by God, not the sense of pure autonomy informed by Enlightenment Western ideal. We find our voice and breathe smoothly again, anchored safely in our relationship with the Spirit. At the center in this slide, these two experiences integrate into phase three, I'm anything, integration. When we synthesize our deepest pain with our realized power from God, we are pushed into an in beyond identity. let me emphasize here, in beyond identity. Hannah looks entirely beyond her own needs, dedicating Samuel to the community, to confront the corrupt leadership and reform a broken social structure. This is where personal healing acts as a direct catalyst for public transformation. Ultimately, Hannah's legacy teaches that there's no separation between the self, the community, and society. She's a model of public transformation. Personal transformation is inextricably bound to systemic change. By fully embracing our marginal experiences and the depths of our Han, H-A-N, we gain the power to engage the world differently, pushing toward a broader, more inclusive, and just conception of community. So here are 4 targeted discussion questions designed to help you unpack the intercultural, theological, and psychological themes of my presentation today. First, unpacking Han and marginality. How does viewing Hannah's initial suffering through the lens of Han change how we understand her lament? In what ways can a marginal space or wounded heart become a position of a unique insight rather than just weakness? Second, the tension of autonomy. The lecture introduces the concept of heteronomous autonomy, finding one's own voice while remaining held by the rule of God. How does Hannah navigate this tension between personal independence and divine surrender in phase 2? And what does that look like in our modern lives? Third, personal versus public transformation. Hannah's vows to dedicate Samuel directly addresses a leadership crisis and systemic corruption in her society. Why must personal healing precede public society reform? Can true public transformation happen without the inner work of moving through Han? Lastly, the cycle of nothing, something, anything. Because these phases are recurring cycles, again, rather than a linear timeline. How do we identify which phase we or the community we serve are currently occupying? How does knowing that these phases repeat help someone enduring the lowest point of I'm nothing? The insights we gain today are tremendous. You may reflect on this theme of transformation for yourself. Thanks for visiting my channel and watching the video. For more about my scholarship, visit my blog at drkims.blogspot.com or contact me with this email address. Thank you very much. God bless you. Bye now.